And the first game of 21-22 is in the books, ladies and gentlemen. Nashville Predators, they start us off on a sour note here against the Seattle Kraken. They give the Seattle Kraken their first win in franchise history. It was a kind of a scrappy, sloppy game, even though the score might indicate it was a highly offensive game with a lot of chances. The final score does not indicate that at all, folks. It was a really rough game. Welcome to Catfish on Ice, Season 2, Episode 71, our first live instant reaction to a Preds game of the season. We're excited to be with you tonight. This is Chad Mitten with Rich Howe. Rich, just give me your first impressions. How are you feeling right now coming out of that game?
I don't like it, Chad. Back to you. No.
That's some groundbreaking, cutting edge analysis from Rich Howe there.
Man, just sloppy.
Sloppy. That's a good word for it.
Lots of defensive lapses.
Yes.
Bad passing. That goal by Winberg, just standing there by himself, that was the nail in the coffin. Even though the score wound up being 4-3. I saw some things I liked, but we'll get into it more. But just it's disappointing, but I got to talk myself off the ledge because we said there were going to be growing pains, and that is exactly what this is. So.
Yep. So episode 71 here, I totally agree with you, Rich. So episode 71 is going to be all about reacting to the season opener against the Seattle Kraken. We do have Nashville Predators hockey to talk about. There was a lot of positives in the game as well. There were some good things. It wasn't all a train wreck, so we're not going to just sit here and act like it was. But in the end, it's a loss. There were a lot of really costly, unforced errors that directly led to the Seattle Kraken. And I'm still going to give the Kraken a lot of credit because they played their game plan to a T. So you got to tip your cap to them in that regard. We're going to get much more into the game and break it down and really talk about what we saw, who stood out as far as some players, and get into all that. And then, of course, we cannot overlook Matthias Eckholm getting his new contract, his well-deserved new contract with the Predators. He got a nice little pay raise. That kind of settles a big question mark that we had looming over this season, and it comes the day before the season opens up. So we really got to talk about that. And, of course, the whole NHL season is fully underway. Tuesday night was an awesome opening night for the league on ESPN, and then we've also seen the NHL on TNT, which was just wild to even see. It was so weird seeing NHL and TNT. But we're going to kind of talk about how do we think, in our quick hitter segment, we're going to talk about, do we think ESPN and TNT did a good job? We're going to kind of rate their performances. We're going to talk about some other teams that are really sticking out early on in these first few games we've seen around the league. And we're also going to update all of our listeners and a lot of our listeners who are in our fantasy hockey league with us. Let's talk. Me and Rich are going up against each other right now in a battle that honestly kind of feels like the way the Seattle Kraken Predators game went. Like it's back and forth.
Back and forth.
Every time I feel like I'm catching up to Rich in this game, this fantasy hockey matchup, he just pulls ahead on me. So we'll kind of update our listeners on our fantasy hockey league. Yeah. So we are presented by DraftKings. We are part of Hockey Podcast Network. Again, this is Chad Mitten with Rich Howe. Let's get into it. Let's talk about this game. The Preds lose 4-3. And close. That final score really doesn't indicate how defensive of a game this was. I mean, if you just look at the final score, let's say you didn't get to watch the game, you're just now pulling up the score on your phone, you might think, wow, a lot of offensive fireworks. UC Saros must have had a really bad game or whatever. No, that does not tell the story at all. It was a very sloppy, defensive, not a lot of room on the ice, not a lot of crisp passing going on out there. A lot of dump and chase, a lot of chasing the puck, forechecking. The puck was bouncing all over the place. I was trying to figure out if the Preds were playing basketball or hockey tonight because the puck was bouncing around so much. And every time you thought the Preds maybe were going to get some offensive, something set up, which was very few and far between. But when they did have that chance, that puck would bounce on them. I know there was an instance where I'm pretty sure the puck skipped over Duchesne's stick, I think, when he had a good clear shot. It was just one of those games where just nothing came smoothly. And to the credit of the Seattle Kraken, that's the style of game they want to play. They want to muck it up. They want to make it dirty. They want to make it look hard to watch. And they played their style perfectly, and it made it really hard on the Preds. I think at one point the Preds had 5 shots on goal in the second period. That was their shot total.
Yeah, but they wound up catching up. But still,
they did.
Hey, I want to give the Seattle Kraken some credit.
Yes,
those dudes almost beat Vegas last night, and Vegas they were down. On Tuesday night they were down 3-0 and lost 4-3. Came back from
and they got robbed. Let's be honest, they got robbed in that game by a kicked goal.
They absolutely did. So I saw some people on Twitter saying, "Hey, this team that hadn't been playing together forever is beating the Preds and stuff." But man, they're not slouches by any means.
They're not slouches, and what's really impresses me about the Seattle Kraken is, and I got to give their coach, his name's escaping me right now, but I got to give their coach a lot of credit. They're in the second game of their franchise history, and they already appear to have a team identity. They know what they want to be. They're going to be really hard to play against, almost like how the Preds used to play for the longest time under Barry Trotz. The Preds used to play this way. Just make it ugly, it's not flashy for TV. If you're trying to maybe turn on new hockey fans, they might think this is boring or there's not a lot going on. But when it comes to the Seattle Kraken, it seems to work perfectly for them. They were suffocating the Preds. Every time the Preds would get the puck in their zone and they would try to break out into the neutral zone, it would just get like a stop sign. A wall was just built. And the Preds could not crack through it very often. The Preds. So even going to the Tolvanen goal, which broke open the scoring first 3 minutes of the game, that was kind of a sloppy. Maybe sloppy is not the right word because it was a pretty goal by Tolvanen, but that was one of those gritty, physical style goals where Granlund worked hard off the face-off to get the puck back, scooted it over to Cunning. Cunning got it to Tolvanen. It was like one of those blue-collar style goals.
Absolutely.
There weren't a lot of flashy styles goals or scoring chances for the Preds until late when they were making that final push to get the tying goal.
Yeah, and the third period, I don't know. It's tough to watch because it was like we kind of saw the same thing last year a little bit. Not a good second period. Play from behind, got to come in the third and just turn it on. And they looked really good in the third period. Like they were knocking on the door. Seattle was tired. They kept icing the puck. They just couldn't get it done. And it was the errors in the first period, and then that one lapse where they got that easy goal. The Predators lost this game for themselves. It wasn't anything amazing that Seattle did. It was the Predators lost this. But it's like we said, growing pains. It's going to happen. Any win they get is probably going to be ugly this year. The only pretty goal the Predators got was Yossi's. That was a nice goal.
That was just classic Roman Yossi,
right?
And it was on a 5-on-3. Let's be honest, that was on a 5-on-3.
Yeah,
and that 5-on-3 was almost over.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't even necessarily a gorgeous 5-on-3. I mean, they were struggling to find room on the ice. Even at 5-on-3, they were having trouble getting away from the Seattle defenders. But credit to Yossi because that was a very pinpoint goal. Let's kind of go through chronologically here what happened. Tolvanen scores the initial goal, gets people all riled up really early. This happens within like the first 3 minutes of the game.
Yep.
You're playing with the lead, which was one of my keys to victory for Pred Lines when I wrote my keys to victory was play with the lead. So they checked that one off. It was a good goal by Tolvanen. It was pretty. Beats Grubauer. That's not an easy goaltender to beat in that situation.
Absolutely not.
And he beat him. And so credit to him for that. And then after that, though, it kind of just it was almost like a drop in the bucket there because honestly, the Preds just could not. It was like they were in quicksand. They just could not get loose. And then when they did get loose, Seattle was there to block a shot, steer it out of trouble. They were there to clog up lanes, intercept passes, or you get these bouncing pucks that seem to really plague the Preds as well tonight, where they just couldn't really settle the pass down, And it just, it was kind of like a recipe of all those things going on at once. And so it was really hard. Yeah. But they made that. I do appreciate the fight that the Preds brought there towards the end.
Yeah.
So they're down 3-2. Saros kind of got hung out to dry. It was a wide open net, kind of a defensive breakdown. And I think it was Brandon Tanev was wide open on the other side of the net and just had an open goal.
Oh, that was Winberg.
Was that Winberg?
Winberg got that one. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember who the defensive lapse was on. Everybody said it was Harper. Some people said it was Tomasino, was out of position. But
there on every goal they scored tonight, it was a breakdown. I know that the first goal was kind of a product of. Yeah, it was on the power play, and Sissons got beat.
Yeah,
he kind of got caught flat-footed. So I mean, there's enough blame to go around here. It's not one player that it's kind of a team effort when it came to a lot of costly turnovers. Cousins had a costly turnover that didn't end up burning them. Sissons had a turnover. Tomasino, you could see how Tomasino was undersized out there.
Oh yeah,
I mean, definitely. He looked. I mean, I thought he had a decent game for his first game. He struggled to find some room out there. He kind of got a really hard lesson in how hard this is going to be to transition. And I seriously got some early Ellie Tolvanen vibes from Tomasino's debut tonight, because Tolvanen ran into the same issue when he first came into the league. We knew how talented he was. He was right up. He had the same type of buzz around him as Tomasino has around him right now. And it was a slow development for Tolvanen as well. And time will tell if Tomasino can shoot up even faster than Tolvanen did, but it's going to be a slow process. We got to be patient. We got to take the growing pains with this, as you said, Rich. And then what do you know? Tomasino actually showed us a flash of his offensive brilliance there towards the end of the game, and nearly tied the game. He got it to Tolvanen, I believe, and Tolvanen forced Grubauer to make one of those Vezina Trophy type of saves, clutch saves. And Grubauer stood tall.
Yep, he did. Duchesne got a shot that hit the post.
Yeah.
And like we said, they're going to fight. They're going to have to fight for anything they get. And like, if you look at even the goal that Granlund got, that was just like him fighting to get it in there. Like, it wasn't anything pretty. Like, it was a rebound and he got it in. But they're going to have to do some shifting around.
And that's kind of honestly, that's kind of what we expected going into the season. This is what we said. We said the Preds are going to have to be one of those blue collar, hardest working teams on the ice, because there's going to be a lot of occasions where they're not the more talented team on paper.
Yes, exactly.
And honestly, in a game like tonight, I call it a wash. I don't think Seattle's roster is any more talented on paper than ours. If anything, I call it a toss-up. But there's going to be a lot of occasions, and guess what? The Preds are getting ready to play the Hurricanes in their next game. And the talent gap is going to be up there on that one. So my point is, there's going to be a lot of games where the Preds are the less talented team on paper, and they're going to have to make up for that by being the hardest working team on the ice, and also be the team that plays the most disciplined.
Yes, the power play, those penalties that they took were not good. I understand what Yakov Trenin was trying to do with the fight or whatever.
And we're talking about a fight, though. That was a hell of a fight.
Whew. Trenin, man, I don't know. He's like a crazy man, but
he is.
I can see I can understand that one so much, but then Carrier, I think, tripped somebody, and that was kind of not a good one. And then that one where the Kraken committed a penalty, and then Forsberg got called for something, and they went to 4-on-4. I just didn't understand.
It was a weird sequence. But I tell you, that was kind of a major shift in the game right there, because you felt like the Preds were kind of controlling things. They were up 1-0.
They were.
They had a lot of momentum. Sissons takes a brutal hit, which was a legal hit. It was. There was nothing dirty about that hit.
Yeah.
Sissons kind of got caught without his head on a swivel and got flattened.
Yep.
And Yakov Trenin took that to heart and challenged Vince Dunn. And what a fight that was. They both traded blows. I will give Trenton the slight win in that fight.
Yeah.
But both guys got their shots in. You saw Trenton go immediately down the tunnel after that fight, but the crowd was energized. The Preds are up 1-0, but it turns out to be a 2-minute power play for Seattle because Trenton got the roughing penalty because he was the instigator, and it was a fair call. I'm not going to complain about that penalty. And that's the cost that you say. That's the cost you take when you do that. If you're going to be one of those types of teams. And what have I said, Rich? What did I say going into this season? I said this team, the way they play with this chip on their shoulder, it's a good thing. It can help them a lot, but it's a double-edged sword. They're going to take a lot of penalties. And if they're going to play this way and if this is going to be their style, they better be good on the penalty kill. And unfortunately, they gave up 2 quick power play goals to Seattle, and that was the difference maker in this game. That changed everything.
It did. You have to be able to back it up if you're going to go out and be the instigator and stuff like that. That's definitely the stupid penalties is definitely something they need to work on. The defensive laps where Winberg got that goal, I mean, obviously they're going to work on that, but I don't know. That seemed a little fluky to me. But I don't know. It's just there were bright spots, but it wasn't all bad.
I don't think it's like a complete dumpster fire of a loss by any means. I think there's a lot of – you can pull some optimism out of this game. It's one game of 82, so I don't need to see all these people saying, I knew this team was going to be horrible or I told you so. I told you this team was going to be one of the worst. I'm not buying into all that. It's one game of 82, and they played against a team, as you said, that took Vegas to the brink and honestly got robbed of that game.
They did.
So there's a lot you can take from this game to feel good about it because the Preds did not play their best capable game.
No, we've seen them play well.
I can guarantee you when we see John Hines' press conference, he's probably going to allude to the fact that the team did not play their best style of hockey.
Yeah.
And yet they up to their potential, I should say their full potential. And yet they still had a chance to push this to overtime there at the end. They came this close against a Seattle team who I feel is going to be in the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
I think if I really do. I think they're going to be that type of team. They can play their style and be very well coached. And they've got an outstanding goaltender in Philip Grubauer, and they got Dreger as his backup.
Absolutely.
So they're going to be fine. Seattle's going to be a good team. They're going to be a very quality team. And the Preds still almost pushed this game to overtime despite having some really bad mistakes on unforced errors on their part that directly led to Seattle goals.
Yeah, and it seemed like the first line, Duchesne, Johansson, and Forsberg were having a hard time getting anything going as well. And that they got to figure that out really fast.
I mean, Forsberg had an assist in the game, but other than that, I mean, he was pretty much kept in check. Forsberg did not get a lot of room. I think Johansson had maybe 1 or 2 good scoring chances. One was like a tip in that he almost redirected in. Yep. Duchesne, as you said, had a really near scoring chance, narrowly missed it there at the end when they were trying to get that tying goal. So they showed some flashes, but they did not get the sustained offensive pressure where they were moving the puck around or where they looked comfortable. You didn't see much of any of that. And again, give Seattle credit for playing a very good defensive game in that regard. How about Granlund? Granlund with a 3-point night, 2 assists and that late goal. So Granlund had a really strong game. The whole second line had a really strong game, if you think about it. The second line of Tolvanen, Granlund, and Cunnin had a very, very strong game together.
Cunnin almost got a goal as well.
Cunnin had the assist on Tolvanen's goal, and Granlund had the assist as well. And then, I mean, you're going down the list. Granlund assisted on Roman Yossi's power play goal, and then Granlund scores there at the end. Forsberg actually had 2 assists in this game. I didn't see that he assisted on Granlund's goal as well. So, I mean, there's some good things here. This isn't a complete just all for naught, embarrassing loss by any means. The fact that they didn't play their best game and they still had every opportunity to get that game tied up there at the end is somewhat encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they could just play like they did in the third period, I mean, they actually put the clamp down on Seattle in the third period. Like, I think they only got like 2 or 3 shots maybe. That's how they have to play every period.
I think that was also a product of Seattle's style. I think they were choosing to play a very, very conservative style of hockey there at the game. They were sitting back and daring the Preds to do something. They were the opposite of a team like the Hurricanes, actually. They were very content on sitting back, building that wall, and saying, please, we dare you to break through this wall. And every time the Preds would try to, Seattle would corral the puck and knock it right back down. Yeah. Or they would intercept the pass. Right. They would narrowly poke check it out of the zone, and then the Preds would have to go out and reset. It was like it was like rinse and repeat. And it was hard to watch, honestly. It was so frustrating to watch.
Very frustrating. I guess I would say, instead of putting the clamp down, I guess a better term would be play with the intensity that they had. You know what I mean? But
every time I felt
of them being behind, then that's what they do.
I felt like every time the Preds took a step forward, Seattle would force them to take 3 steps back. That's kind of how I felt about it all night. But like I said, it was still there for the taking. It was still very much where the Preds could have done something. Ellie Tolvanen gets the 3rd star of the game. Alex Winberg gets the 1st star of the game for Seattle, and Jared McCann gets the 2nd star. So Tolvanen gets the 3rd star of the game. So that's cool to see. Shots end up being favored by the Preds, which is insane to think about. It's crazy to think about the fact that the Preds ended up finishing with 30 shots on goal, considering they had 4 shots on goal going into the second period. And for a good chunk of the second period, they only had 5 shots on goal for the whole game. So they really did turn it on there at the end.
They did.
And that's when you have a goaltender, like a world-class goaltender like Philip Grubauer. That's, again, what makes Seattle such a good team. A very high-quality, worthy playoff contender is not only do they have a very strong defense, but when they do occasionally make a mistake, they've got Philip Grubauer back there to bail them out. So that's kind of what the Preds ran into tonight.
Saros had a good game, though. He
did.
It wasn't like the stuff that happened wasn't his fault. And
I feel like we always kind of go back to that. But you're right. I mean, you're right, because let's kind of look it over here because Seattle's 4th goal is an empty net goal. The first goal was really, honestly, let's be honest, Dante Fabro, I don't know where he was at. I don't know what he was doing. He looked kind of lost out there, and he ended up screening Saros.
Yes.
By accident, but it's a product of not knowing where the puck's at, is what I see from it. He looked kind of lost out there. He was kind of in no man's land. He really did. He was kind of skating without a purpose. Mm-hmm. And he ends up inadvertently screening Saros. Saros couldn't see the puck. I guarantee you if Fabro's not in that spot, Saros snags that.
Oh, absolutely, you would have.
Because it's honestly, it was kind of a weak goal. It really was. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a weird goal where Saros couldn't see it, and so that's a rough one to take on the chin right there to start with.
I feel bad for him. I mean, he still looked good, even though the problems that they had. But we knew this was going to happen. I mean, it's going to be part of going to be part of what's going to happen on this season.
Yeah. So Saros finishes with 22 saves on 25 shots. So when you look at the box score, it's pretty underwhelming. But we always know there's a story behind the box score, and sometimes the box score does not do it justice for what actually happened, and that's definitely the case here. Some other big totals here from the game. Preds won the faceoff circle.
Yep.
They connected on the power play.
They're good at that.
Penalty minutes were 11-11. The Kraken had 22 hits to the Preds 16 hits. Both teams had 12 blocked shots. Really, when you look at the stats, it's a pretty even game.
I mean, it was an even game. I mean, I think it was even. It wasn't. Neither team played stellar. I mean, it was just an ugly game. I mean, it was all the way around. It was just ugly.
Yeah.
So it's very even. But to put it in perspective, you got to look at it like this. I mean, I know people are upset the Preds lost or whatnot, but think about this. Tampa Bay is 0-2, and they lost to Detroit.
I know you love that.
Imagine how their fans are feeling right now. You know,
we got Kyle Perkins. We got Kyle Perkins in the chat here, and he says, "Fire Ben Harper into the sun."
Yes, everybody. Yeah, I saw
Ben Harper's kind of the whipping bag, the punching bag for.
He is.
And I'm not saying that it's not deserved, because he I think it reiterated what everyone is already saying when they saw the starting lineup this morning. Ben Harper does not bring much value to the team. Mm-hmm. He's just a big body. He's a statue. He's a traffic cone. People use all different types of terms for describing Ben Harper.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know whose assignment, the Winberg goal, like who missed that assignment, but everybody just automatically assumed that it was Harper, and it might have been. Yeah. I couldn't tell who it was. Some people said Tomasino, but he's not a fast skater. He's just kind of takes up space. I would have definitely went with Benning or Borowiecki. I mean, I would not play Harper Saturday probably if
and I'm telling you, that third pairing is going to be a revolving door like it's been for years now. I see it happening again. And I'm telling you right now, it's not going to take long before John Hines is going to have to seriously consider bringing up David Ferentz or Jeremy Davies.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
But I'm right there with you, Rich. I actually think that Hines has to. He shouldn't even be thinking twice about it. John Hines needs to put someone else in on that third pairing.
Yep.
Hell, I would even venture to say even scratching Dante Fabro, because he did not have a particularly strong game either.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just going to call it like I see it.
Yeah, and towards the end, I don't know if you noticed, I heard him say that they actually moved Carrier down to the second line and moved Myers up with Yossi.
I thought Philippe Myers had a decent game. He did some good things. So from what he's hard to miss because he wears that big cage on his face. So he sticks out. But I thought Philippe Myers had a decent game. Carrier was all right out there. Eckholm nearly scored on his patented little. He likes to do this little sweeping puck into traffic, and he scored a lot of goals that way. Grubauer had to be sharp on one of those types of scoring chances for Eckholm. Yep. So, but that third pairing, it continues to be just a mess in this game. And so I wouldn't be opposed to seeing both Fabro and Harper switched out. Let's shuffle some things up here and let's see what works. I'd be okay with putting Borowiecki and Benning in there. Let's see how they do on Saturday against the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, I mean, when they first came, they were actually playing together.
Yeah, so I actually don't think that's going to happen at all. No, I'm sure Fabro will be in the lineup, but we'll see. I think Hines seriously has to consider at least taking Harper out and putting someone else in there and seeing if they can provide a spark, because that is such a glaring weakness on this team right now.
Very much so,
as it's been for a long time.
Yeah, and the slow skating is what gets me. Like, they're just, I don't know. The whole team, I was noticing it, they just don't get to the puck quick enough. They kind of let it linger and then get to it.
They looked like they were in quicksand. They looked like they were in quicksand.
They sure did. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to put it. I don't know. There just wasn't any sense of urgency. It's like, if the puck's sitting there and you're just kind of casually skating over to it, you're not going to get it. You got to have some urgency and get to the puck. I don't know.
Exactly.
Harper's
not good. I mean, for how bad they played and how underwhelming they were, the fact they still had a chance to win this game, I'm going to look at the glass half full here.
Absolutely.
And I guarantee you that every player in that locker room is probably thinking, you know what? We did not play our best game tonight. We need to play much better. And they better play much better because they're playing against a much better team on Saturday against the Carolina Hurricanes. And if you make costly mistakes like that against the Hurricanes, they will run the Preds out of the building on Saturday.
They will. Yeah, I mean.
And that game's also at home here in Nashville. And I promise you, fans will be leaving the game early if they play this way again against the Carolina Hurricanes. It will be a 4-0 type of game.
I hate that though. It's like,
well, no, I'm not making excuses for leaving the game early and being a fair weather fan. I'm saying it's going to be that type of game if they don't clean up these mistakes here.
Okay, I get you. I got you.
It's one thing. It's one thing to play a more talented team and just get beat, but you played your best game. It's another thing when you don't play up to your potential to no reason of the other team. It's because you didn't play your best potential game, and then you still get beat. That's when it becomes a problem. Yeah, and so they got some things. They got some things to clean up before they play Carolina this Saturday.
They absolutely do. And Carolina won tonight.
But as it is, Preds lose 4-3. They get an empty net goal there to make. The Kraken get an empty net goal. It was 4-2. Granlund gets a quick goal there to give us a chance there right at the end, last seconds of the game. But it ends up being 4-3. So turn the page to Carolina. We got Carolina twice. No, wait. No, I'm looking at it wrong. Carolina, then we go to LA. We get to see Victor Arvidsson.
Yeah, they're coming here.
That's our next two games, and these are all at home. It's a 4-game homestand to open the season. So
So then the first away game they're going to play Winnipeg, and then Minnesota, and then they have San Jose and the Islanders
to wrap up October.
So
pretty tough. Honestly, that is a really tough opening schedule.
I was just thinking that it is.
LA is going to be a very improved team. I don't think they're a playoff team, but a very improved team. New York Rangers are in a lot of people's books to take a big step forward. They lost to the Stars tonight, but they're a team that's penciled in to take a big leap forward. Winnipeg's my second best team in the division, if you ask me, behind Colorado. Minnesota is another team up there at the top. San Jose, that's about the only game where I see the Preds being a favorite in.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. 100%.
Maybe LA. I guess you could maybe argue that the Preds would be a favorite against LA. And then the Islanders, no, definitely not a favorite in that game. Yeah. So, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it will.
But this is why we love hockey. This is why we're happy the season comes back, because this is why you play the games. And so here we go. Let's get into our next segment. This is episode 71 of Catfish on Ice, season 2, with Chad Minton and Rich Howe reacting to our first game of the 2021-22 season. It's here, and it's still awesome to be talking about hockey, even though the Preds did lose. We got a long season ahead. It's just game 1 of 82. So let's pump the brakes, everybody. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay.
And even if things do turn out bad, it'll still be okay.
And we're still here for you. We will still be here for you. You still got us, even if the Preds keep losing.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's get jersey. See this jersey we got? We love the Preds. Yeah. Those things are expensive. I wouldn't have spent my money on them if I didn't like the Preds.
Let's get back to some more positive news here.
Absolutely.
And that is Matthias Eckholm getting his new contract. The man got a well-deserved pay raise.
He did.
And it happened right before the season opened. It happened the day before the season opener. And Eckholm has been drastically underpaid for a while now, because he initially signed a really long-term deal back in, I want to say, what year was that? 2015, I believe.
I don't remember.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah,
and so he was playing on a very team-friendly deal for a while. So everyone knew that there was a realistic chance that Eckholm was going elsewhere. We thought it was going to happen at the trade deadline last season.
We did. Yep.
And the Preds decided, you know what? We got cold feet on this whole sellers thing. We're not going to do that. And so they kept Eckholm, and then they got this deal done. Eckholm seems very happy about it. He says he wants to grow up in Nashville. Not grow up, but you know what I mean. He wants to stay in Nashville. He wants to raise his family in Nashville. Him and his wife love Nashville. He wants to be an impact not only on the ice, but off the ice in the Nashville community, which is just, when you hear stuff like that, that is true leadership stuff right there. And I'm more happy for Eckholm than I am for the Predators, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. I mean,
because he deserves it. He so deserves it. He is, and I do. forget about how we feel about the whole front office part of it. Like, is this the right move? Should we be rebuilding? I'm thinking about it from the human aspect of it. I'm thinking about it from the loyalty aspect of it. And it's really awesome to see the Preds organization do right by a player that's done right for you for so long. And that's what I get out of this. I think it's basically David Poile saying, Matthias, you have been a foundational player for this organization. You've been nothing but a classy, strong representative of this organization, and we are going to treat you. We're not going to be cheap about it, and we're going to take care of you. And so kudos to them. You can knock the decision from a front office perspective saying we shouldn't have done this, but you've got to keep some core players. You can't just completely rip the whole thing down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And why would
unless you're prepared to be as bad as the Sabres or the Coyotes for the foreseeable future, you've got to keep some of these players
for a long time. Yeah,
and so Matthias Eckholm fits into that equation.
He does, yeah, and it's really good. Like if you think about it, like he could have obviously went to several places and went to probably some teams that have legitimate shots at, Stanley Cup. But like he sees something in Nashville maybe that we don't see, or our fans in general don't see. Maybe he sees the team, this is a building block this season will be to something better in the future. And I really liked, I don't know if you got to watch the press conference or whatever, but they actually asked him about when they were talking about trading him last season. And he said after practice one day, he just went up to Poile's office and was like, "Hey man, are you trading me or what?"
I did see that.
He was like, I what's going on? And Poile said, that's just the media. He said, like, we're not going to get rid of you. So even then they knew that they weren't going to keep, or that they were going to keep him. So it's good to see. It doesn't happen very often in hockey, as you know. A lot of player movement all the time, but it's good to see him stay in here. I like it a lot. He's one of my favorites
as well. Here's the details of the new contract. A 4-year, $25 million contract that goes to the 2025-26 season. So, and here's the big part of this. There is a no move clause in this.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, there's no.
There is.
There's no move clause.
Yes. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So he could be dealt.
He could. Yeah. Poile doesn't like to give those out. Which. Yeah. Understand it. It's understandable. And I like the 4 years. I mean, he's 31 years old. So.
Yeah, stay away from those long-term contracts, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
$6.25 million annual average value. So it's not a high-risk contract, and I think a lot of that has to do with his age.
Yeah.
If he was a little bit more in his prime, then he would obviously demand a lot more of an annual average salary. But regarding his age, but a player like Eckholm, I don't see him dwindling down too much the style he plays.
No, I mean
it's not like he relies on speed too much in his game. He relies on being a smart, rugged player. He takes the body. He's smart. He's a leader on the ice. He's a great locker room presence. He can also still bring you some offense as well. So he does a lot of little things well. And like you said, he's just a great presence in the locker room, especially for a young team like the Predators.
And they need every bit of leadership they can get.
Here's what Poile was quoted as saying. This is on the Nashville Predators website. Quote, when you think about foundational pieces on our hockey team, Matthias Eckholm is certainly at the top of the list, and we couldn't be happier to get this deal done with the start of the regular season upon us. An alternate captain who leads both vocally and by example. Matthias brings stability and size to our defensive core and has embraced serving as a mentor to the younger players on our team. We have a group of young right-shot defensemen that include Alexander Carrier, Philippe Myers, Dante Fabro, and Matt Benning, who all have the opportunity to learn from and play with Matthias on the side opposite of him. So that right there just pretty much illustrates it, that Eckholm is mainly being kept here with this new contract by Poile because he's a leader.
Yep.
And we need leaders on this team.
In a bad way.
And you don't let leaders like that get away, especially on a deal like this, which is a very it's a really a good deal for both sides.
No, it is. Yeah,
because Eckholm gets a pay raise, and the Preds get a bargain and get to keep a key part of their team.
Yeah, I'm glad they got it taken care of before the season, actually, the first game or whatever. I think he was really, like, if you listen to the press conference, he was kind of like, yeah, now that this is done, I can go just play hockey and I don't have to worry about this.
That's good.
Even though he had like a whole year before his contract was up, he just wanted to get it taken care of so he can go play hockey. So now they need to get Philip Forsberg signed, and that'll be good.
Which I think that's going to be a lot more difficult.
I
am not sold on that whatsoever. And if you honestly made me bet right now on it one way or the other, I would say that Philip Forsberg is going to not be here next year. Sadly.
60-40 on that. I agree. Yeah.
I'm like 80-20 on that. I do not feel good about him at all staying here long term. But we'll see. Here's what I put out to Twitter right after Eckholm got signed. And it was honestly a very genuine question that I had. And it got a lot of responses on Twitter. And I'm going to share some of the responses. I do have an honest and genuine question for Preds fans who wanted a full rebuild. Does re-signing Matthias Eckholm fit into your plans? Because this isn't a full-on rebuild. In fact, we should probably just stop using that term from now on. The pressure is to produce again. And all I really mean by that is we can't keep leaning on this excuse of the Preds are rebuilding. It's going to be a rough year. We've even said that a couple times on this show. I'm done with all that. You can't call it a rebuild anymore. This ain't no rebuild. There's no excuse for Poile. I don't want to hear people fall back on that excuse if this team's underperforms, because they are pretty much showing us that Poile's showing us that, yeah, he might want to fine-tune this team and make some changes, but he's not rebuilding.
How many new players played tonight that hadn't played before?
2.
There you go. No longer. You cannot call that a rebuild at all.
Yeah. So I don't want us to fall back on it. Rich, you said during the press conference, Poole even said he wished he had never said competitive rebuild. He said that he wished he would have used the word transition.
Yeah.
Okay. So the pressure is to produce here, though, like you said. Tyler on Twitter says re-signing Eckholm only makes sense if we had kept Ellis. We can't keep trading valuable players to only re-sign others. At this point, the team is just treading water. Poole needs to make up his mind to make a run or rebuild. I get what he's saying there. I do, because I do feel like we're kind of straddling the fence here of what we want to do. And when it comes to a long-term plan, I can't get on board with Tyler's message about trading away valuable players. I love Ryan Ellis. He's one of the great all-time Predators, but he is declining.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Preds would have gotten much value by keeping him. If anything, his trade value would have kept going down.
Yeah.
And so I think the Preds got what they could have gotten out of him, which is a young, offensive, talented player like Cody Glass. And you got Philippe Myers, who played a vital role on the second defensive line tonight, and I thought played fairly decent.
Yep.
So, I mean, I can't get on board with that point from Tyler, but I do kind of agree with him in the sense of Poile's got to figure out what he wants to do here. Does he want to keep kicking the can down the road and be a playoff team, but probably not make it past the first round? Or does he want to rip the Band-Aid off, like you like to say, Rich?
I don't think he's going to rip the Band-Aid off.
He wants to keep that Band-Aid on?
I think so. I mean, you look at I don't know. I just kind of had a little bit of a thought about this whole thing, and it's like, I don't know how many years it's going to take, but while the Predators are anchored with Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson's contracts, I don't see him being able to do much.
That's true.
They're not going to get, because of those two guys, they make elite money, but they're not elite players. And, you know, most teams have 2 or 3 like really elite players.
Yes.
Those two guys are taking up money for elite players, and they're not. So Poile might be gone by the time.
You're hitting the nail on the head there with that one. And also, let's be honest. Let's be really honest. Let's be really honest here. How many truly elite players do the Preds have on this team? One, and that's Roman Yossi.
Yep.
We would like to think that Philip Forsberg will one day get to that point. It's not going to happen in a Preds uniform. I hate to say it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm dead wrong.
I hope you are too.
Let's get into more of these responses I got in this question, because I got a lot of good responses. So thank you everyone who responded to that question, because I thought it was I knew I was going to get responses all over the board here, and that's kind of what I got. Evan on Twitter says it fits into the competitive rebuild narrative. Also, he's a great tradable asset at a reasonable AAV if they truly do decide to go into a full rebuild mode at some point fairly soon. L. Briggs on Twitter says re-signing Eckholm makes sense. He is a good leader and mentor for the young D. Yossi's a freak of nature. Eckholm gives the kids an example of solid physical 2AD. That's kind of what Poyle said.
Yeah.
So Briggs is spot on there. Let's see. We got some other good ones here. Vincent Falcone on Twitter says a full rebuild was not necessary nor possible. Too much AAV with Joey and Dutchy. Selective subtractions and inserting some youth in size was the path forward. A lot of good stuff here. VJ Mueller, which is I talk to him a lot on Twitter. He's very active on Preds Twitter. He put, in my opinion, yes, part of any good rebuild is having at least a few good veteran players that can help teach the younger players what it's like to be an NHLer. Eckholm totally fits that bill. And I kind of agree with VJ there. Like, that's kind of what I was trying to say is Eckholm, you got to keep some foundational players in this mix. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I fit in. But it's a tough question to answer. It really is.
It is. But if you look at the people who you do want to keep, who are the leaders, Yossi, obviously, Eckholm, those are the kind of guys that you want to be the leaders. And those are the guys you want to hold on to. Like you said, if you go full-blown rebuild, you're going to look like Buffalo. You're going to look like Arizona. I think that would be horrible.
And who knows? And if they do go full-on rebuild, who knows how long they're going to be stuck in that? And our fans who are beating the drum for a full-on rebuild, are they prepared and are they patient enough to make it through 4 or 5 years of purgatory?
You're on Preds Twitter, you know that
they're not even patient enough to make it through one period without booing.
No, yeah, absolutely.
The Boo Birds were out tonight at the first intermission of the first game of 82 games.
Yeah,
so they're definitely not patient enough to make it through a full-on rebuild. So
my comment about the pressure to perform, not only is it on the team, it's fan pressure. You know how it is, like. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but like the fans got a little bit of taste of what they wanted. They got rid of some guys that made people mad. They brought in some younger guys. They got what they wanted, but now the pressure to perform is on again. People aren't going to be happy with what's going on. So,
and they also got a taste of what it looks like to see a young rebuilding team that's going to make costly mistakes.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be ugly at times. Real quick to wrap up this segment again, Eckholm gets his contract, though, 4 years, $25 million. Keep him here for 2025, 2026. We did a poll question. Does the new Matthias Eckholm contract make you feel better, worse, or the same about where the Preds are heading in the next 4 years, which is the length of his contract? Didn't get a ton of votes on this, but better was 52%, worse was 15%, and the same was 33%. We got Max Greenberg, one of our fellow Predlines contributor, who said better, got one of our better players at a great price, shows that we can be good enough to still get players to re-sign and potentially come here as a unrestricted free agent destination in the future. So there you have it with that. So let's move into our quick hitters of episode 71. And let's start off. We're going to kind of go around the NHL here and see what's all going on here. We've got some good things going on with that. We've also about to update you on our fantasy hockey results right now. Me and Rich are going up against each other.
You're actually
every time I feel like I'm catching up, just like it's kind of like I feel like I'm the Preds and you're the Kraken tonight, because every time I feel like I'm catching up, you just like push me further away. But before we get into all that, before we get into our quick hitters, as Rich is over there laughing and giggling because he knows he's
No,
probably going to win.
No, it's funny because you're like so close.
I'm
like,
so close. Just like
close.
the Preds, I'm so close. All right, before we get into that, we got to bring up our sponsor, DraftKings here. DraftKings is an amazing sponsor. We love DraftKings, and they are the official betting partner of the NFL. And it was another week of NFL action, and we got more NFL action coming up this week. And here's what we have for you. Just $1 on any NFL game can net you $100 in free bets this week. All that has to happen is someone has to score a point. And the last time an NFL game ended in a 0-0 tie was 1943. So your odds are pretty heavily in your favor that you're going to win this bet by using our promo code THPN. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN to throw down $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. That's promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply to DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. So, yes, we got that for you. You can also do daily fantasy if you're not into the betting on lines and odds. You can do daily fantasy. It's a lot of fun to do the NHL part of it as well. I know we're all hockey fans here. You can have a lot of fun on DraftKings with the NHL as well. So, yes, let's get into these NHL topics here. And I want to start with – go ahead.
Before we get going, I got to say something. I was wrong. Tampa Bay wound up beating Detroit. I thought it was 7-6 in overtime.
Detroit missed the extra point.
Poor Detroit. Detroit they lost, so Tampa Bay did win. I said,
well, there you go. What about Vasilevsky? What about Vasilevsky though? He doesn't look good so far. What are we talking about? A slow start for him.
I actually watched the Pittsburgh game when they pulled him like with 6 minutes left in the third period. He was sitting on the bench and he looked shell shocked. Like he did not.
It doesn't happen very often to him. It does not happen very often.
Yeah.
Let's talk about ESPN and TNT, their presentations of this opening week of hockey. Let's start with ESPN first. It was, first of all, hearing the theme song just gave chills down my spine. As a kid who was growing up in the 90s and started watching hockey, I remember that theme song so distinctly. And it resonates with you. It resonates with me as nostalgia because that's kind of when I first started watching hockey, was right around when ESPN and the NHL kind of had their split up. Was around when I wasn't like a diehard hockey fan by any means, but I was definitely starting to take notice of it and watch it a little bit. I really liked the Red Wings back then just because I picked a random team and the Red Wings were a dynasty. So that's kind of why I went to the team that was really good. Right. I liked Steve Yzerman back in the day and all them, but yeah, so that was really cool to see. I thought ESPN did a good job until they toyed with my emotions. I saw the shot counter up there, and I thought it was going to be up there for good, and then it just goes away.
I saw your tweet, and I was like, you said, oh, glad to see there's a shot counter, and then I looked, and I was like, I don't see it. I must have missed something.
Yeah, they took it away. When I said that, when I glanced up and saw it, it was plain as day, and I assumed it was part of the permanent little score bug. And then I look up maybe 10 seconds later after sending the tweet, it's gone. Yeah. And I'm like, seriously, ESPN? Like, seriously? Yeah. But I thought for the most part, ESPN did a good job covering it.
I enjoyed the coverage. So I was watching it on the ESPN app on my television. And it started off, it was a little fuzzy. Like it was like buffering or something. And I was
You're using the ESPN Plus?
Yeah, but on my TV, the app on TV. And it was a little fuzzy, but then it cleared up and it was fine. After that, I didn't have any problem at all.
So
I enjoyed the coverage. I thought it was good.
I had ESPN Plus fired up on my TV tonight, streaming some games. And my buddy, who's the Dallas Stars fan, Clayton Stewart, he wanted to watch the Stars, so we watched the Stars and Rangers game for a little bit. And I mean, you're streaming it, so it's going to have some lag to it.
Yeah.
But I'm really impressed with the fact that so many games were available to watch tonight if you're a subscriber, to ESPN Plus, which is only $7 a month. Which I'm not trying to promote ESPN Plus. They're not they're not like a sponsor or anything. But I was just impressed by how many options there were.
Yeah. So I last season, I think it was last season, I bought the NHL
package, center ice or whatever it's called.
It wasn't center ice. It was like through like NHL Network, I guess. And it was expensive. Like I got it halfway through the season and it was very expensive.
Yeah.
But now, like,
I don't know if this is like,
you pay $7 and you get like,
I don't know. I don't know if this is like a full season thing or if they're just doing this early in the season to get everyone like roped in.
Oh, they better.
But there were several games available tonight to watch if you had the ESPN Plus app, which is you can stream through your TV. So that was pretty cool to see. Now, let's talk about TNT's coverage.
Yes.
They get a 10 out of 10 for me.
They get an 11 out of 10 for me.
Yes. I mean, the whole intermission report with Wayne Gretzky and Charles Barkley was TV gold.
I will sit and listen to Wayne Gretzky say anything. He can read.
It was so funny though. We tweeted it out, and you can go back and check it out. But we tweeted out the video where if you missed this intermission report, but they put Charles Barkley in Pecorine's pads.
Yep.
And they're in the studio. They give a stick to the great one, Wayne Gretzky, and they're like, let's see how many times you can score on Barkley and net here. And of course, it's not like full force,
right?
Because you're in a studio. Yeah. But it was still really fun to watch. And Barkley is just such a naturally funny person. He can say pretty much anything, and you're going to laugh. And I think he's a closet Preds fan. I really do.
Yeah,
because he did go to the Preds playoff games in the Stanley Cup year. So I there's something there. I don't know what it is, but I think he's a Preds fan. But anyway, I thought that was cool. They brought up Pecorine and the whole talk there, and it was fun.
And they had a shot counter through the whole game.
They did have a shot counter throughout the whole game.
I like that a lot.
I know some people are skeptical over this, but I think the ESPN TNT marriage here with NHL is going to do wonders for it growing the sport, reaching the younger demographic, and also reaching more fans who maybe like the NHL is never going to reach NFL numbers.
No.
Or even NFL numbers, to be quite honest, or NBA numbers, I should say.
Yeah.
No. But if you can at least see the sport grow a little bit and get to more people and be available to more people, because when it was on NBC Sports Network, nobody watches that channel very often, and it's like you even when a game's on national TV, NBC Sports Network just wasn't doing it.
No,
just wasn't pulling it. Just wasn't doing it, and the NHL was largely a geographical. Regional market. Like we watch it because we're Preds fans, but like someone in like Iowa or someone in a non-NHL market, are they really going to watch NHL hockey? Probably not. So this is a good way to get on a main network and get more eyeballs on the sport and grow more fans. And it's good for every team in the league.
It is. I think they need to do something to help the casual fan understand the game a little better. So
yes, I can get on board with that.
So, yeah, I went to the preseason game, the Carolina game, and during a meeting at work, everybody was like, "Oh, how was the game?" And like all the people, I said, I've been to NFL games, I've been to professional baseball. There's nothing like going to a hockey game, and everybody said, "I would love to go to a game. I just can't keep up with it, and I don't understand it."
That's true.
That is something that TNT and ESPN should do, like make it a little more.
I agree.
And
they've also and it also falls on the players. The players got to do a better job of branding themselves.
That's true.
That's what the NBA does a great job at branding their players. The NFL does a decent job at it as well, but that's something that the NHL's superstar players don't do a great job at really reaching out to the fans and becoming those like larger than life types of,
absolutely.
So the player,
like Sidney Crosby or
so the players have a part in this as well if they really want to grow the sport.
Yeah.
But still, I think it's great for the league that they're on these big networks now, and they're going to get more. They're going to get more eyes on them. Just looking at the scoreboard tonight, this is Thursday. This is when a lot of teams are playing their first game. We've got, let's see some scores here. The Kings are up on the Golden Knights. That's pretty good there.
That's huge.
Let's see. Is Arvidsson on the board here? No, we don't got an Arvidsson. I'm going to be keeping up on Victor Arvidsson all year.
Absolutely.
In LA. He does have 2 shots on goal.
That's good.
So Arvy's making his debut for the Kings. Let's see. We got some other scores here. The Sabres, the hapless Sabres got a win against the Canadiens 5-1. The Senators beat the Maple Leafs. That's a pretty big upset there. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. The Stars beat the Rangers.
Have you watched that Toronto Maple Leafs documentary on Amazon?
No, but I've heard about it. Yeah,
you should watch it. It's really
I got Amazon.
Good. You should.
I got Amazon, so I might need to check that out.
It's really good.
I'll have to get around to that. How about the Blue Jackets putting up 8 goals on those poor Coyotes?
That's good. And they did. So I was watching a little bit of the pregame of that. The goaltender Merzlikins was friends with the guy that got killed. There was a Columbus Blue Jacket. He actually wore that guy's number. Was it Kevin? I don't remember how to say his name, but he wore his number tonight.
That's awesome.
And then they hung a banner in the arena, and they actually won. And he, when they won, he came out. He got the second star. Merzlikins did, and he was crying and pointing up to the sky. So
wow.
Really yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, that's
it was really good.
That really brings everything into perspective here.
Absolutely, it does.
Very cool stuff there. So I'm just on cloud 9 that we got hockey back all night tonight. I was treating it like a holiday. Just we had because we had games on my living room TV, on my laptop, I was trying to watch them all at once. It was a lot of fun. So it's a great day of the year to have hockey back here and watching all the games. Let's update everyone on our fantasy hockey league as we're rolling here before we end episode 71 tonight of season 2 of Catfish and Ice. We're also on YouTube tonight. We've been streaming live on YouTube for our first time.
Go subscribe.
So if you could go subscribe to the YouTube channel, we would really appreciate that. We have put that out on Twitter. If you want to go give us a subscription, we're actually going to do exclusive video content for the YouTube channel that we will not do in normal episodes. I plan on doing little 10-minute little clips throughout the season. If something big happens, Rich will jump on board with me with some of those as well. They won't be episodes. They'll just be little clips of content. So stay tuned for that. We might do some rankings, some countdowns, just whatever comes up. You'll have to subscribe to the YouTube channel to check that out. So stay tuned for that. Let's get into these fantasy scores here. We got a 12-team fantasy hockey league. We've got all of our most loyal listeners are in on it, having a lot of fun talking hockey and kind of trash talking each other in our group thread here. We've had a lot of fun. So me and Rich are playing against each other. How fitting in the first game of the hockey league, and I'm only down by 6 points now.
I know. I was up a lot.
For the longest time, I was down by 30 points, and every time I thought I was catching up, I would just get knocked backwards again. But
I think you're gonna overtake me because you've got Kopitar from LA and you've got Mark Stone from Vegas. They're playing. I don't have anybody. I'm done playing. So
this matchup runs till Sunday. It's a running score.
Yeah. But you'll probably overtake me tonight.
I hope so. But Kopitar is doing good things for me. He's got me 16 points tonight. Kucherov finally stepped up and got me some points. Kucherov laid an egg for me in the first game of the season on Tuesday. He was a ghost out there. I had to keep checking the box score to see if he was even playing.
He was your ringer too.
Yeah, he was my first pick. But he's coming together tonight. He put me up some points. Mark Stone I just love Mark Stone. He's one of my favorite players. He's so fun to watch. I hate that he plays for Vegas, but I love me some Mark Stone. He's doing good things for me. Heiskanen, who is arguably one of the best young defensemen for the Stars. He put up some points for me. And my boy UC Saros had a rough night. It wasn't all his fault, but the fantasy scores don't care about that.
They do not.
And when you give up 3 goals, that really costs you a lot of points. But your guys struggle too.
So, I had Sebastian Aho today. He only got 5 points. I do have Alex Ovechkin, 32 and a half points. So that was amazing.
It's going to be fun following this.
I had Tanev tonight, 24 points for him. But then we talk about goaltenders. Well, actually, I had Eckholm too. He got nothing. Tony DeAngelo got 15.5 points. Talk about goaltenders. Marc-Andre Fleury, like I probably shouldn't have played him because he got roasted. So he only wound up with 4 points. Like I was watching the beginning of that game. They were down 3-0 in like 10 minutes, and I was like,
I gotta say, I'm starting to figure out that starting these goaltenders is actually kind of nerve-wracking because they can get you negative points.
Yes. So I started, and then Peter Mrazek was playing tonight for Toronto. He got hurt, only 2.5 points for him. But then I have Mike Smith from Edmonton played the other night, 17 points. So that was good.
There you go.
But
it's gonna be a close one. Let's look at some other scores here.
What I'm doing.
Let's look at some other scores here in our fantasy league. Chucky's Angels, which is Lindsay. She's got Vasilevsky on her team, so I'm sure she's pretty. She's kind of probably banging against the wall right now over Vasilevsky. But she's winning her matchup right now over Group's Crack House. These names are just really funny.
They are funny.
Let's see. We got Kentucky Line Trash, which is Matt Hardesty, a good friend of the show. He is tearing it up right now. He's got 100. He's got 168 points, which is the most in the league right now.
Yeah,
and who's on his team?
Projected to get 265.
He's got a good team. He's got Roman Yossi on his team.
Oh, he had Nylander for Toronto.
Yeah,
Chris
he's got a really all right. He's opening up a can there. He's got the most points in the league.
No, he had Campbell, their goaltender for Toronto. 22.5 points he got him for them.
Yeah. And then you've got the Goon Squad, which is Kyle Perkins' team. They're kind of in a slugfest right now. 85-72, pretty low scoring there with Osei, Can, Yosei, which I believe is Matt. I think that's
Max Ritz.
That's Max Ritz. All right, so we got a low scoring game there. But yeah, like we were saying when we set this league up, go back and listen to our episode where we did our fantasy draft. It was really funny and really humorous as we all try to do a live fantasy draft while we were doing an episode. It was kind of hard, yeah, but we've got a $50 Amazon gift card and a T-shirt or hat of the podcast going to the team that finishes the highest in the league. It's not myself or Rich. So that'll be fun for someone who can win that. So we'll update it. Fantasy hockey is a lot of fun, and we're enjoying it. We'll keep trash talking each other. So, Rich, what do you think is the number one thing you're looking for as we end episode 71? What's the number one thing you're looking for going into Saturday's game against the Hurricanes? What's the number one thing you think they need to work on or improve
on? Not play Harper. I think they need to the defensive lapses cannot happen. That and penalties.
Between me, you, and Kyle Perkins, I really hope that Ben Harper does not listen to this podcast.
Oh yeah, he could beat up all three of us at once.
Oh, definitely. He would bounce me around. He'd bounce my head around like a basketball if I ran into him in person. I hope that sincerely hope that everyone in the Nashville market listens to Catfish on Ice except for him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's a professional. Whatever.
I know.
It's just.
Yeah,
I know. It's not a good fit.
For me, I'm gonna go. Yeah. For me, I do agree with that. I do think they need to make a change on the third pairing going into this game. My big one is going to actually be special teams, which I've been saying for a while. Just the power play looked decent. I just think that they've got to clean up. They've really got to work on this penalty kill more. They got to figure some things out. They got to stay off the penalty kill. If it's going to be an issue, then they got to change the way they play. And like you were saying, we love Yakov Trin standing up for a teammate, but you gotta know when that's going to actually hurt your team. We love the fighting. We love the fighting in certain areas, but it maybe in that moment it shifted momentum. I think this team has to calm down a little bit, not play quite as emotional.
Yep.
You know, there's a fine line between playing with an edge and playing with a chip on your shoulder, but not playing so emotional that you're making mistakes.
Yep. All right, so I got a quick question for you.
Yes.
I got a quick question. I'll go ahead and finish your thought.
Well, no, I'm just going to say maybe dial it back a little bit in terms of not getting so overly amped up that you're making costly mistakes.
Absolutely. So I got a quick question. How long do you leave Philip Tomasino on the roster if they continue to play?
I think you got. I think you got to give him a good 5 to 10 game stretch at least.
Okay.
Because you're not going to get a really good evaluation on him until you let him get a good stint. Now, 5 or 10 games in, if he's clearly struggling and he's not getting a lot of benefit out of it, then I think because he's not waiver eligible, so there's no issue with sending him to Milwaukee.
Right.
So I give it at least 5 games, minimum 5 games.
Okay.
Maybe even go as high as 10 games. If he's struggling so badly that he's costing the team games clearly, then obviously you got to make a decision and probably send him down to Milwaukee. But you got to give it some time.
A little bit, yeah, definitely. But if they go on like a 5-game losing streak,
we'll see. It depends on whether it's his fault. If he's the one that's
that's true.
In that problem. But we'll see how that goes. Right. We're definitely going to monitor that. I know this lineup's going to have to be shifted around a little bit, the depth probably. So it'll be interesting to watch. This has been episode 71 of Catfish on Ice. We hope everyone has a really good weekend. Enjoy these home games we got. We hope if you're going to Bridgestone Arena for these games that you're having a great time and that you're enjoying seeing live hockey again. I'm hoping to get to a game here soon. Until then, we will see you next week for episode 72. Connect with us on social media at Catfish Ice and go subscribe to our YouTube channel. This has been Catfish on Ice, episode 71, season 2 on the Hockey Podcast Network and presented by DraftKings. Everyone stay safe.
Have a good one.